of good size, the attendees' phone lines will be muted during the program. For questions, use the chat function during the session. One of our staff will be monitoring the chats during the hour and respond to you as quickly as is feasible. Also, a recording of this webinar will be available on our website after the last session on June 17th, should you want to refer back to it. Let's now meet our presenter, Jane Brionek. Jane is our product manager at Thinkware. She has 15 years of experience in the PEO industry. She worked for a PEO for 12 years, originally starting as a payroll specialist and advancing to the role of director of payroll in her work for this organization. Jane came on staff in Thinkware in 2013. In her work here, she has not only taken over managing the product, she's also built a quality control and testing team to improve the processes used at Thinkware for improving the applications that you use. With that, I turn it over to Jane.
Okay, hopefully everyone can hear me. We transferred me over to my phone, so I want to make sure that everybody could hear me. Can a couple of you just raise your hand or let us know if you can hear me? Yeah? Okay, we're good. Okay. And everyone should be able to see my screen now. I have my Darwin up. What we will be going over are some of the things that Robert had mentioned earlier, plus a few other things. There's a lot to go over with for Darwin 12. So I wanted to make sure we could go over as much as we possibly can in this hour. If we do have time later for questions, just depending on how things are running, we may be able to do that. I've broken it up into what I'm going to show you into what I call some cosmetic changes or some changes to the look and feel in Darwin for Darwin 12. Also then the second thing we're going to be looking at is invoices. We've had a number of changes to our invoice and charges. And then lastly, some of the new functionality that we've added to Darwin 12. So to begin with, we're going to talk about some of the cosmetic or look and feel changes to Darwin 12. The first thing I'm going to show you is if you go to your user preference in Darwin 12, you will see up here my icons or my command display looks totally different from what it would in Darwin 10. That is because you now have the option, every user that you have has the option of choosing what they want for their preference on the window command display. The one I have showing here is the action pane, okay? The action pane strip is just going to be a strip, kind of like you have in Darwin 10 across the top, but it's going to have the larger icons. Excuse me. And the last one, the menu bar, is going to be the one that's most closely looks like what we currently have in Darwin 10. So you can make that change out of the box. Everyone is going to have the action pane. So if you have users, once you have updated to Darwin 12, if you have users that don't like it, want to change, they can certainly go back and change it to the menu bar, or they can change it to the action pane strip. Those changes don't take effect till after you log off, and then when you log back in, you would see your new window command display. One thing to keep in mind in looking at this and making those choices of what you want to display for your user, the icons or the action pane is a little bit bigger. So things are changed around a little bit, they're moved, so it may take users a little bit more time to get used to that. That's why I said the menu bar is more closely related to Darwin 10. That one I think users can go into and everything's still in the same place, looks the same. It won't take them as long to move around as it may in the action pane. So you may want to give them a little time to play around with that and see what they prefer. So that is the first change that we have for Darwin 12. The next change that we have, I'm going to show you via a payroll build. So I'm going to build a payroll. And I'm going to leave this marked to screen and printer for this one report. And you will now see that you get a print box that appears to allow you to change your printer. So you can change to whatever printer you would like to. And that comes up on the reports now when you have them set to print. Before, in Darwin 10, when you had that, it would come up with that automatic box that would say it's printing to this printer. Here you have the option of what printer you want to print that report to. So I wanted to show you that. Also, another new feature on the build, in Darwin 10, we had the build report where you would be able to see all the information for the build. And then if you had any warnings or critical errors that would cause issues with the payroll, of course, warnings you can process through. The critical errors you would not be able to. Those would all show up on the build. And one thing I know we had issues with is if you have a large client of, over 100 employees, to have to scroll through that build was a tedious thing to find an error or a warning. So what they have now, Microsoft has now created a payroll exception report that prints with the build. And what that does, it shows you just those employees that have warnings or critical errors. Excuse me. So we'll take a look at those now. So here's your typical build report. Same thing, it comes up as it did before with the warnings or the critical errors. Once you close out of that, it will bring up this payroll or check file exception report. And this is just going to show you critical errors, any employees that have that, and then your warnings, and any employees that has that. The one caveat to this, it prints with that build report that we normally get with Darwin when we create our builds. So, if you have a client over 100, you can look at the build report for any other things that you may want, but then, you can close out of that and look at this one report for just those exceptions. And that's the only time it appears is with the build report. And to set that up, I have that in the documentation. It's actually going to the posting window. It comes set up with Darwin. If you want to shut that off, you can. It's an all or nothing. So it would be for all clients. And I do have that in the documentation where you can go do that. So another feature you're going to see, or cosmetic change in Darwin 12, is due to some customization we did for a client, and I just want to make you aware of it so you know that it's out there and what it's for. If you go out to the client, and I will select my same client that I had, you'll see down here at the bottom where it says Legacy Client ID. This was put in so you could track previous client numbers if you were converting clients over, to help identify those clients if you so desire. It is a free form. You can put whatever you want to in there. It is just an identifying field. It currently doesn't report anywhere, but it is something that also shows up if you go out here. You can see it on your lookup for your client. So, and you can sort by that as well. So if you're looking for old client 222 or something, you could go out here, look, find 222, and see that that new client number is 010. So that's a new feature that's out there also, just so you know in case when you see that legacy you don't wonder about it. The other thing I was going to show you is on the payroll setup, we have this guard customer ID. That was for some customization we did for a client for their work comp. So that also is identifying field, and that's out here. It does pull into some specific reports that we had created for them. So just so when you go out to the payroll setup and see this, you don't wonder about it, that's what that's for. So I wanted to let you know that. The next thing I want to show you is some changes on the ACH window. They're basic changes. They don't affect the ACH. They're just mainly informational fields. And bear with me, we're working on some testing with the ACH window and it pulling up, so it took a little longer there. But one of the things we did in 12, so you know, across the top here you'll see some new fields that we've added. And these, again, are just informational fields for the ACH window for clients. So it'll bring up the invoice number, total amount, etc. The other thing with that is you can now sort by some of those fields that are out there. Again, they're more informational fields. They will populate, and then you can sort and how you use them if you want to, you know, sort a client by that specific amount or by that specific field, you certainly can. But you will notice that those fields are out there for the ACH window. The last thing I'm going to, the cosmetic item that I'm going to show you is a feature that we have pulled in for viewing some things on the employee card. So if you go, and I'm going to this via the summary, if you go to the employee's payroll check inquiry, and you can go wherever you want, I just usually go in through the summary. So when you come out here, you will see we had invoice ACH detail and transactions before. You will now see that we have distributions and recreate pay stub. So what you need to do is, and this could be if you have any check that's out there, and this employee only has 3, but if we want to look at the detail on this particular check for that employee, we check the box over here, and then we click on distributions, and it will show you the breakdown of that paycheck for that employee, which is a nice feature, especially when you're researching things and trying to figure them out. This is a nice feature to have. So that is one of the new buttons that we have out there. The other one is the Recreate Pay Stub. And what the Recreate Pay Stub is going to do, it's going to take you out to the check printer, and it's going to show you that specific check and that check for that employee. And that's all it's going to show you. But it is something, if an employee calls in and says, well, I'm looking at my check and I can't tell, if you don't have access to the check printer, you know, maybe you have a fulfillment department that's doing all your check printing, at least your payroll people or your HR folks could go out here and see that one particular check for that employee. So those are 2 new buttons that are on the payroll check inquiry field. So those are the prevalent changes that you will see when you come out to the new Darwin 12, and may notice that things look a little different, or if it's a new field, hopefully I've covered those. Those are the most prevalent I think people will run into. So the next portion of this that we're going to talk about is the invoice. We've made some changes to the invoice, and I'm going to go through, we've got 4 things to look at there that I want to show you that we've made changes to. So the first one I'm going to show you is I am going to bring up a client, and let's go this route so you can all see and don't just have to take my word for it. If I go to this client, you will see that he is indeed has multiple divisions, okay? It's not just a 1 division client, he has multiple divisions. So if I go back out here and go to new to create, it will say, of course, you can't unpost any previous, you want to continue. Then it says this, please select a division ID to use for this invoice. So you go out there and you select the division, and then you can continue on with that particular invoice. One of the things that we've done that I want to show you, wrong one, sorry, is I'll go to a client that is not. So if I go to divisions here, you will see that this client only has the one default division. That's all they have. So when I go out to this client and do a new, I get the unpost invoice, but then I don't get anything saying you have to select. Before in Darwin 10, regardless if they had one division or if they had 5 divisions, you always got that message. So what we have done in 12 is we've suppressed that message from appearing when you have just one division. The only time it's going to appear is when you actually have to select a division for that client. Along those lines, and I'm going to post this just because I'm going to come back here. Is the ability, and this is going to require some setup. If you go to Tools, Setup, Company, you will now see on this window the Suppress Unable to Post Previous Invoice Message. If you check that, and keep in mind this is for company, so it's a all or nothing, so all clients, this would occur for all clients. If you click that and say OK, we're going to go back out, and I can go back out since we saw 002 the last time brought that message. We'll go back to this, and we'll create new, and you'll see that that message that came up about you can no longer unpost any invoices, do you want to continue, that message no longer appears. So that's a way for you to shut that off. Again, remember that it's for all clients once you shut it off in that company. Okay, the next two things I'm going to show you deal more with the charges on the invoice and what those look like as far as the changes that we've made. So what I want to show you is, the first thing I want to show you is the new expansion detail. This is a very nice feature. I like this feature just from past experience in the PEO. I know how much we could have used it. The feature is if you go out to this, I'm going to go out and add a charge here, and oh, it's already out there, sorry. The charge is already out there. I'm sorry, I forgot to put that out there earlier today. So I go out, I put a delivery charge out there. You now have the capability, and I'll show you how to set this up for the charges or make the charges expansion detail charges. But for right now, I want to show you, if I go out to the delivery charge and click expand, I can now go out here and put descriptions and break down that amount that's on there. The area I was looking at this mostly that I could think of from past experience was new hires. If you want a new hire charge for a client and say it's 4 different people at $25, you can put new hire, $100, and then in the expansion detail list the employees' names and how much for each one. The other area I looked at with this is for drug testing, things like that. So what I did here, I went out and added for a delivery charge. I said, okay, UPS is costing us this client $165, mail's $520, so it's got a total of $170.20, and then that will appear out here. The piece to add with this is this detail expansion detail charge will not appear on your normal standard invoices that you have out there. We had to create a separate invoice for this. We are looking at being able to add this charge to the current invoices that are out there. But for right now, it's got its own specific invoice, and I'll show you that is located out underneath the reports in the middle of the screen here, and it's called the Custom Invoice Expansion Detail. And if you go to print there, this will then show you your invoice. And as you can see, it will say delivery charge, but then it lists my description, it lists my breakdown. So if I had new hire Smith 25, new hire Jones 25, those would all show out or list out on here along with the rest of your charges that are on your invoice. So currently right now that's the only invoice that is going to show that expansion detail, but it is available. I know we've got a couple of clients that are on. Some have used it as supplemental, like they've done their regular standard invoice, but then they print that off if there are payrolls where they're going to have that type of detail or need that kind of detail on a charge. So that is the expansion detail. To set that up, out on your charges screen, and I'll take you to the delivery charge that we have set up, you will now see that it says allow for charge expansion. Okay? That needs to be checked. Once that's checked, that charge is added to an invoice, you can go out and you can use the expansion detail. Any charges that you have set up that are not manual where you can make changes to them, for example, on the invoice that I'm on, the buy active employee, the other taxes, the payroll, those cannot be set up as expansion detail. They have to be charges that you can create and set up that are manual charges that you can add to. So that's the expansion detail. The other thing I wanted to show you that is also new with the invoice piece of Darwin 12 is once you are have a charge out here, sorry, so let's go out and the expansion detail, I can't charge it. That's why I was hitting the wrong button. Must be Friday. I'm going to set up, and hopefully this is not set up for expansion detail. It is. Let's do this. Okay, set up the payroll. Okay, so if I go out and set this up. Why can't this invoice? Yeah, they still move on you. That has not changed. Okay, when you want it to alter, you can always come out here, click on the charge, come out here, click on alter, and you can change it there. The one thing that's new is you can now come out here for those types of charges, and instead of going up to the alter button, you can just go through and once you're on that, click over. If it's a non-expansion detail and one that you can alter or allowed to alter, once you tab off of that charge after it's been entered, and once you tab off of it, you can go out here and you can change that amount. You can still always go back up here to the alter button if you'd like, but this is just another way of going around, another way of getting that alter done on that charge. So it's just another method to doing that. So those are our invoice items that we've changed on the invoice. We've got the suppression of the messages, whether it be the divisional message for those clients that just have one division. We have the posting. You can't unpost a previous invoice. That's a choice you can make, whether you want to have that or not. And then we have the expansion detail, the invoice for that, and then the alter button and the changes made there. So those are some of the areas that we've made some changes to the invoice. Now we're going to talk a little bit about some functionality changes that we've added to Darwin 12. The first thing, and this could possibly fall into the look and feel also, but it does have some processing effects. So I will show you this. We've added to local taxes. I'm going to go out to this employee and go to their local taxes. There is a new field now out here for local taxes called additional withholding. This does allow for additional withholding on local taxes. The one thing to keep in mind with this is that if you are using this for local taxes and that local tax has a limit, so say it's on the first $15,000 withheld for that employee for the year, and if you've put $20 out there as additional withholding, that $20 is still going to remain even though that employee hits that limit and Darwin won't take any more local taxes. The additional withholding will still come out. So that additional holding is a permanent thing for that employee. So if you need to stop that along with other limits or dates or anything like that, you'll have to come out here and actually manually remove it from that employee on their setup. But it is out there now, so you can add additional withholding to local taxes. Another function that we've added is on the client. When you go to the options menu, you will now see an exclude button up here by the past 125 savings. What that exclude button will do is to allow you to not pass the 125 savings on a particular deduction. So you can come out here and choose a deduction and save it, and you'll pass the 125 savings on to the other deductions that the employees may have, but you won't on that one that you picked to exclude. So that's a new feature we have in 12 as well. The next feature I'm going to talk about is we have added, let me get to a new client here. I want to show you the employee setup on here to get to where we are. We have added a new feature. One of the things that we're in the process of doing is a lot of clients have mentioned the reporting, being able to report and capture transactional stuff in detail. And so one of the things we're starting to do is we're starting to attach or allow reporting down to the transaction level. We've had that before for pay codes, etc. In Darwin 12, we've added that to benefits and deductions. So what it is doing is the functionality of it is that you can now select a deduction to either assign to an employee's home department job, or if they have multiple, you can have it separate out and prorate the same as what your pay is doing. So, for example, if I have a salary of $2,000 and I have it's 50-50, 1,000 going into 2 different departments. Whether it be I assign the departments for hourly or I use split transactions. I have it 50-50 for pay between departments. And I also have medical insurance, and I really would like to split that out and be able to report on that so I know, okay, if his health is 250, 125 of that is Department A, 125 is Department B. You now have that capability to break those down. The thing with this is we've got them attached and separating at the transaction level, and if you go to the payroll transaction history, you'd be able to see that. It is in the tables. We don't have any canned reports or any reports that you currently will print from your invoice for your payroll that would show that. You can use SmartList and you can access those tables, so you could be able to pull those reports that would show that breakout. Excel Builder you could also use as well. So what I'm going to show you is where we're going to set that up. And it's not a client setup. You can have some employees that you have this set to and some you don't. I don't know a particular scenario off the top of my head that you would want that, but you certainly can. So on this deduction for this employee, you'll see I have it a mark to assign amount to home department or position. So if this employee has multiple departments or positions, and I have this marked, all of his 401k, the full transaction will go to his home department. On his health, I do not have it marked. So if we go to the transaction detail and look at the health, we will see that that should be broken out and prorated the same as what his pay is. So that's where you go to set it up. The one thing to note, benefits, it's a little different. It's up here rather than over here, but the same thing goes for benefits. You can set them the same way for an employee. So I am going to run a payroll just to show you how this looks. That's one of the things. You'll see me go up here a lot. I think on the Darwin 10 it was up here to select the bills, now down here. So by habit I always go up there. And I just want to make sure I got my deductions and benefits. And it will look the same. It will look the same for your deductions out here. Nothing will look different on your build. Of course, I have transaction dates that aren't up to date, but where you're going to notice the difference is on your calc checks or your edit calc checks if you have that turned on. And as you'll see, this employee has everything broken out between 3 different departments. His 401k and his health are down here. They're not broken out, but everything's listed. If you go to the Print Calc Check button down here and print the calc checks from there, this is more of what your calc checks currently looks like. It's going to show your breakout for your pay, and it's going to show your 401k and your health down here on one individual line. Okay? If you go up to the Continue Pay Run, this is where you're going to notice the breakdown. So here are my three different departments for pay. My health is broken down because I had that mark, or I did not have that mark to assign to home department. So that broke it out between the three. My state is also broken out. So I can say 23 cents of my state withholding went to department Minol, okay? Health, you could do that as well. Benefits, if you had those marked, would break out as well. My 401k, I had marked to my home department, so that's just showing the one line item, and that's just going to one department. Out of the box, your Darwin 12 is not going to have that checkbox marked, which means that if you have employees in multiple departments, it will automatically separate those employees. Deductions and benefits and prorate them according to what their pay is. The reason we did that is not all PEOs know which clients have multiple departments, and it may vary from paycheck to paycheck. So we went ahead and had that unmarked. If you don't want that client to separate out, you certainly can go in and mark those. I know some clients have also done a script, had their IT run a script, because they wanted none of their clients to have that marked. That's a preference, and so if that's something you want to do, you may want to check with your IT department about that. Okay. The next feature I'm going to show you is a monthly billing feature that we have added, or a charge that we have added for a monthly billing feature. Oh, sorry, I want to go there. This client is set up for this. This is called a monthly by active charge. And what this charge is, and it was from a client request that we had, they wanted to ensure that they said we bill all of our clients $100 a month regardless, by active employee. So for every active employee, we're going to get at least $100. So this way the client knew that, okay, their admin fee is going to be $1,200 for an employee. The issue they ran into with the by active is with terms and new hires, and they wanted the full amount of the month to be charged. So even if I had an employee that came on the second payroll of the month, I still need to get $100 for them because they started in that month. The same with terms. If I had one term at the beginning of the month, I still need to get $100 for that full month for them. So this charge was set up, and that's why it's the monthly by active. Keep in mind it is by active employee, so it will bill for every active employee. Where you can go to set this up, and then I'll show you how that works, is there's two places you can go to set it up. There is on the option screen, there is an active employee monthly charge setup. And if you click on that, this will open it up, and it will allow you to put in what you want to get for that employee for the month. So if you're getting 50 for part-time, you put in 50 there. If you're getting 100 for full-time, you put in 100 there. What it will do, it will break down by frequency. So if you're a semi-monthly payroll, you're going to get 25 for your part-time employees, and you're going to get 50 for the full-time for each pay run. There also is the ability to prorate this charge by division. If you have that marked and you have the $50 for the employee, if they're crossing over into another division, have hours in another division, it will prorate those amounts so each division would have the correct amount. So that's something you can set up. You can set it up there, or you can go out to your charges, and You can call it, I guess, whatever you would like to call it. This one I called monthly by active, but it's got the by active employee monthly criteria. It has to have that criteria in order for this to work. So, you know, if you want to call it monthly charge, you certainly can. Monthly by active was just my way of knowing exactly what it's going to be doing. So the by active employee monthly, you would select that from your criteria on your charge to set up. The one other thing with this charge as far as setup is if you have a client that runs a semi-monthly for their salaried folks and a bi-weekly for their hourly people, you don't really want to charge two different amounts for that. So you can go out to the employee card, and if you go out to the additional and additional, you will see this pay frequency out here. And what you can do out here on the employee, if this employee is a salaried person and they're going to be semi-monthly, you can mark that as semi-monthly out here. By default, it will populate with whatever the client is set up for. So if the client is set up for biweekly, it's going to be biweekly. And then for those salaried folks, you just come out and change the frequency to semi-monthly. And this is just a way to accommodate two different frequencies, although you're having the same charge for all of the employees for that client. So I'm going to show you a little bit about this. And what I did is I created a new hire, Colonel Mustard, on 7/3. So July 3rd, he began. If I go out to and I'm just going to show you, I ran a payroll for 7/15. So on that payroll, my monthly by active was $95. Okay? So I ran the payroll for the first month, and then somebody came in and said, oh, by the way, we hired this guy. He started July 3rd. July 3rd. So you went ahead, got him put in. Then we run the payroll and actually pay him. And I haven't posted these. You'll see that it went up to $195. So $100 has now, and I didn't change any of my other employees. So $100 now has been added. But this client is set up, and for semi-monthly, it's only $50. Even though my monthly amount was $100, my pay period amount was $50. So what it's done is it has gone out there, it recognized the new employee, looked at the invoices for the month. He has not been charged, so it charged him the full amount. And where you would be able to notify or notice that when you run payroll is there is a new report added out here. And it's called Employee Workforce Changes, and it's way at the bottom of your screen. And if you click on that, that will bring up any terms or new hires that would have a charge out there other than the normal charge. For example, the normal 25 or 50 for the semi-monthly, part-time, full-time that we had set up. So this will show you the new hire. It will say termed here if it's a term, and it's going to show you the amount. So this is the amount in addition to what you normally charge your regular active employees. This amount would be added to it. So it's a nice little report to have to show you where a difference may be from one invoice to the other. For example, this one is $195, but if I go back to their last payroll that I ran, it was only $95. Why do I have a $100 difference? Well, that report's going to show you you had a new hire in there, and the monthly amount is $100, so they got the $100. So that is the monthly bill. It may be a charge you're interested in. It may be not, maybe isn't. And you can play around with it and see if it's something that you want to be using. I like the feature where it prorates. It's really a nice feature to have for that charge. But again, keep in mind it's a by active employee, so it's going to be for every employee whether they're paid or not. So the last thing I'm going to show you today is the inactivation of employees when you inactivate a client, a mass inactivation. Which is a great feature. Unfortunately, clients leave, and if they leave for any particular reason, if it's a client that has 150 employees, it's really kind of a pain to go out there and individually inactivate each and every one of those. So this is a nice feature that we have in Darwin 12. So at the client level, to inactivate a client, you're not going to actually click the inactive. You're going to click the hold. And the reason for this is, you know, you may have a client that's not keeping up on their invoices and getting everything paid to you. So you're going to inactivate them, but they still have some open invoices out there that you wouldn't be able to inactivate them. So we're going to put them on hold. And what you can do, you can put them on hold, go through the mass termination process, and then once they're paid up with their invoices, you can always go out and inactivate the client if you really want it to say, you know, be inactive and marked as inactive. But to inactivate the employees, all you need to do is check hold. It will populate with today's date and the termination date, and you can change that if you would like. And once you click Save, it will come up and ask you, would you like to terminate all employees? And you would say yes, and you would pick if you have a client term reason or whatever reason you use for client terminations, you could use that out here. This will be the reason that shows up on those employees that are out there that you're terminating or inactivating. So I'm going to choose term and say OK. You get this message that comes up, and basically what this is saying is you may have employees out there with benefits and deductions that already have term dates, possibly from last year's health plan, and it's got the end date of 12/31. What this is basically asking you is, do you want to override that and put today's date or the date of the client termination, or do you not want to? That's your choice. Some clients, and I would say I would like to leave that history out there so I know. So I would click no, but you could certainly click yes, and it will update and override that date that's currently on that benefit or deduction. Once you do that, you're going to get this message, 29 employees inactivated, 0 did not meet the inactive criteria. If you have any employees that are in any type of batch, it will not allow them to be inactive. They would then come up, so say I had 5 employees in a payroll batch. This would come up and say 24 employees inactivated, 5 did not meet the criteria. Basically what you can do, you can say okay, you can go out, you can delete that batch, you can come back in here and you can inactivate them as well. So you say okay there, and you go out, and your employees are all inactivated. A lot of times, say, from going in and individually marking employees as inactive. So that's a good thing about that. So then, let's say you inactivate a client. No, okay, they're back in business. They want to come back on. You want to reactivate them. What you can do is simply go out, uncheck the hold. Your date will disappear. Save, and it will ask you if you would like to reactivate all the employees. And you go out and you say yes, and all your employees are inactive. Now, if you have an employee that let's say I have an employee I terminated today for performance issues. So he has today's term date. He's already marked as inactive. And let's say next month the client leaves and I go out and do this mass inactivation for the client. All the employees will be inactivated. He was already, or he or she was already inactive, so all my employees are going to be inactive. Now the client comes back, let's say in September, and we go in and we say, okay, let's reactivate all these employees. It will only reactivate those that it mass inactivated. So when you do the mass reactivate, it's only going to reactivate those employees that it had previously done in the process. So the individual I termed today, he will still be terminated for that client, but everybody else that I inactivated with the process, if I reactivate that client, they will come back as reactivated employees. So if they're already termed, they're going to stay termed. Only the ones that are affected with this process when you mass inactivate them are going to be the ones that come back as reactivated. Okay, and that is all I have, and we're about 5 minutes early. So I have one question. Someone posed here, can I print and view multiple checks in the payroll check inquiry when I click on the recreate? No. It is not where you could do multiple checks in there. So that is not an option. Sorry. Okay. Can you print and view? So we answered that one. The next question was, does the mass termination override employees that were previously terminated? No. As I just said, it will not reactivate any employees that were not terminated through the mass termination. If a client comes back and gets reactivated with the employee, does it react the pay codes and deductions? No, that's something that you're going to have to do. All it is going to do is reactivate that employee. It's not going back and unchecking or removing anything from the pay codes or deductions. And the reason for that was if a client does come back, there may be multiple changes. So that's something we got the employees at least active. But after that, you'll have to go out and reactivate those. Oh, they're flooding in by the numbers here. Let's see if I can keep up with them. When you add the charge to the invoice, does it add to detailed cost? And I'm assuming you mean the detailed cost report. Yes. And if we're talking about the monthly charge that we had, and for the person that asked that, if you want to send that in and just let me know if that's what you're talking about, is the monthly bill charged by active employee that we were talking about. If that's the case, yes, that is added to the detailed cost. Can you mass term using the active button on the client screen? No. If you go to do a mass inactivation of a client, it has to be the hold button. Simply because if there are invoices out there, and even if there aren't invoices out there, the inactive will not give you that capability. So if you want to mass terminate employees for a client, with a client, it has to be the hold button checked. And once that hold button's checked and you've inactivated all those employees, and let's say there aren't any invoices and you can use the inactive button, you can always go over and check that if that's what you want to do and have that inactive button checked. You can always do that after you've termed the client, and as long as they don't have any outstanding invoices or anything that would cause you not to be able to. Does the mass termination override previous termination code? What I am assuming, and forgive me, I am assuming on this, but is if an employee already has been termed and they have involuntary termination out there, if you use the mass termination and terminate that client, no, it will not change his code. All it will do is any of the active employees that are out there, it will give them the code that you put in the mass term and inactivate them. So it will not override if I've already got a termination code on an employee. Will it add to detail cost by department? The detail cost by department, again, if we're talking about that monthly charge, if you have that prorated by department, yes, it would add it to the detail cost by department. With the new charge detail, can we list the details of agency credits and the benefits line item? You could. So if you've got agency credits that you want to list out there, keep in mind if your agency credits though are already being included in the calculation on that invoice and you add them to that expansion detail, it will again put them in the calculation. If you want to break them down, if you have other agency credits that you want to break down there, you certainly can. But if you have them coming through where they come through as an agency credit line item already on the invoice, it will do that calculation again. In the payroll check inquiry window, does recreate pay stub allow you to print just a pay stub or reprint the actual? It is going to be just the pay stub that you can print. It basically is taking it from the reprint calc or the reprint check from the check printer. So it's just the reprint that you can do. And that's a good point, and something you may want to make your staff aware of is you're not actually printing a check out there. It will be a reprint check or a reprint pay stub. Okay, well, great questions from everyone. I appreciate that. We're just at 2 o'clock, which I know it's Friday afternoon and everyone is just itching to get back to work. So we will go ahead and wrap this up. If perchance you do have any questions, you can email me in regards to Darwin 12 and any of the new items. My email is janeek@thinkwareinc.com. And if you didn't catch that, you can give us a call here at the office and ask for me, and I'll be more than happy to send you that. But go ahead and email me. If you have any other questions, documentation is out on our FTP site, and hopefully we'll be on the website here in the next week or so. We're redoing some things there, so look at that. If you have any questions again after you look at that, let me know. But I want to thank everyone for their time today, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much.